The breeze blew the neat hedges on both sides of the road, and the street was silent and spotless under the afternoon sky. Everything was so clean, tidy, and well organized, even the trash cans by the road looked clean. The only living creatures on the street were a teenager and a silver tabby American Shorthair. The teenager's clothes were very inappropriate. He was wearing a strange white short-sleeved shirt and a pair of tattered denim shorts, and he had long black hair. Although the boy's clothes didn't fit very well, it was clean, and his hair was long, but not greasy. At this moment, he was concentrating on rummaging through the trash can. As he rummaged, lines of words flashed in his mind. Beast meat +1 poultry +1 potato +1 carrot with unknown liquid on the outside +1 daily quest, recycle ingredients completed magic stone +10 teenager. I always felt that something extraordinary was mixed in. But all this has nothing to do with him, he is just a machine that has no emotions to complete tasks. But suddenly, the door in the courtyard opposite the trash can was opened, and a little girl with thick brown hair came out with a small bag of things. The girl stood in the garden and called to him through the fence, "Hello. My name is not Hi, my name is Tom, Tom Yodel." The girl puffed out her cheeks and looked a little unconvinced. "Okay, Tom. My mom made some little cakes, do you want to try them?" "Oh, yes, my name is Hermione, Hermione Jane Granger." Saying that, she shoved the bag of things in her hand into the boy's hand. Hearing the girl's name, Tom was stunned for a moment. He felt that something was surging in his mind, but he couldn't remember it. It felt like those boiling memories were locked. Hermione didn't notice the anomaly, she continued to talk non-stop. "Also, I don't think it's a good idea to wander around every day. You can try to go to the city's rescue station or orphanage to see if there is a possibility of being accepted, or find a small shop to be an apprentice." She looked glancing at the boy's face that was obviously no more than 14 years old. He hesitated for a while, and then said, "If you still have family, go back, your parents will definitely be very worried." The girl is actually quite talkative, Tom asked himself, he wouldn't talk so much with a scavenger. He smiled at Hermione, then picked up a withered white rose flower from the bushes in the garden. The flower quickly regained its vitality in his hands, and it became as if it had just been picked from the flower bush. "This is for you." "Thank you." He handed the flower over to the kind little girl in front of him. "Oh!" Hermione looked surprised. At this moment, the tabby cat had quietly run to the feet of the two of them, staring at them both silently. But no one cares, after all, what kind of bad thoughts can cats have? Tom saw the tabby cat out of the corner of his eye. He leaned over and picked it up, and picked up the big cat. Perhaps it happened suddenly. As a cat, the tabby cat didn't react and was caught by a hand. He picked it up, and then a hand fell on her head, touching and touching. "It's beautiful, isn't it? This cat, I've always wanted to have a cat, but I'm afraid they will eat the pigeons near my house." Ouch! The tabby cat suddenly exerted force and jumped out of his arms. "Ha, this cat is still afraid of life. I'll go first, thank you for the cake." Tom smiled at Hermione, then waved and left without waiting for her to say anything. Tom walked unhurriedly all the way, and finally came to a bridge hole. Under the bridge hole were some odds and ends. These were all Tom's belongings. There was a smoldering fire pit on the ground. Tom took out a stick from the pile of debris, flipped it a few times, and then took out a black ball of mud. Tom smashed the outer shell of the mud ball and peeled off the leaves inside. An invisible bird appeared in front of him, and there was a strange smell in the air. Not aroma, of course, no seasoning at all. Meat, only the taste of meat. Tom took out a jar from the corner, sprinkled a handful of shiny white granules on the poultry, and then ate it one bite at a time. After a while, a net herd of the beggars were wiped out by him. Tom, who was eating fragrantly, suddenly raised his head vigilantly, looked outside, and a pointed iron rod appeared silently in his hand. A tall, stern-looking woman appeared in front of him, wearing an emerald green robe and a pointed hat that was slanted to one side. "Excuse me, what's the matter with you?" Tom asked alertly without relaxing. "I'm Professor Minerva McGonagall." "Professor?" Tom repeated, looking wary. "Then why are you here? Am I getting in your way?" "No, I work at a school called Hogwarts." "Can you repeat what you just did at Miss Granger's door?" "Okay." Tom didn't talk nonsense, he picked up a leaf and let it revive again. A look of surprise flashed in Professor McGonagall's eyes. "Sure enough, but you're not on the list." Professor McGonagall fell into deep thought. For Professor McGonagall, since she had discovered the child, there was no reason to let it go, and even though he wasn't on the list of freshmen, she decided to admit him as well, which was her role as vice-head of Hogwarts. A little power. This is not a bad guy. Professor McGonagall can see that if Tom's magic power level is not channeled, he will either die in the explosion of magic power, or become silent, or the most powerful one. She recalled a memory from her youth and shivered. In terms of reason, she couldn't let a runaway silence appear on the streets of London. Then there is only one answer. "I'm here to invite you to the school where I work, that is, Hogwarts, and you were admitted to Hogwarts. It is a school that accepts students with special abilities." Said here, she seeing Tom's face change slightly, he quickly added, "It sounds a bit strange, but Hogwarts is not a lunatic asylum, it's a magic school." Tom was stunned, there was no expression on his face. Professor McGonagall seemed to suddenly remember something. She asked Tom, "Oh, I forgot to ask. What's your name? Are there any relatives at home?" "My name is Tom, and I'm an orphan." Tom replied subconsciously. McGonagall. Why is this family background so familiar? The reason Tom was in a daze was not that he had heard about any magic school, but that his system finally responded. He has awakened this system since he was 7 years old, and as a result, he has not done anything other than posting 4 tasks every day. But just now, when Professor McGonagall said "You have been admitted to Hogwarts," there was a crisp sound in Tom's mind, as if a chain suddenly snapped, and countless memories flooded his mind like a flood. "Emerges deep in my mind." At the same time, a cold female voice came from my mind, "Ding. System activated. Intelligent voice assistant is being installed, character panel installation in progress, the task system is loading, the installation of the prayer system is complete." Professor McGonagall glanced at her pocket watch and saw that there was not much time left. She had 2 little wizards to inform today, so she said to Tom, "I know this is too shocking for you, it looks like you need time to accept these things. I'll see you again tomorrow, and hopefully you'll be in order by then." Then with a crisp snap, Professor McGonagall disappeared. Only Tom was left in a daze. After a period of time, Tom gradually came to his senses. He chewed his memory and had mixed feelings in his heart. But the past has gone with the smoke, and the past, don't mention it again. Everything depends on the money and the future. Okay, let me come to the Kong Kong system. Tom briefly browsed the system and found that it was like an ordinary mobile game, or rather crude. Currently only the character, card draw, quest and map interface can be used. Tom first clicked on the character interface, and then saw his mugshot. Tom Yoder, occupation, refugee, nothing but a handsome face, magic column, none theory of knowledge, none magic items, none talent, charm, 3 potions, 5, uniquely gifted, divination, 0, no talent. Dark magic, 9+, Azkaban, magic stone, 58,400. Tom. Looking at his 9 point black magic talent, he couldn't help but be a little worried. In the future, he won't be assigned to Azkaban or Nurmengard in the future, right? But what can be done then? Is the talent high enough to go away? Next, he clicked on the wish. In fact, it was the card drawing interface. A window popped up, with 3 wizards in various poses on it, with 4 big characters written next to them, running to the world, and a line of small characters below, permanent prayers open. Permanent prayer activities, see details for the specific content. In the wishing interface, in addition to the permanent pool, there is also a novice pool. The interface reads recommended prayer for beginners. The biggest advantage of this pool is that you can enjoy 20% off 10 consecutive draws. Tom clicked details, studied the prayer system, and understood the truth. Each time you draw a card, you need 160 magic stones, a 4-star guarantee for 10 consecutive rounds, and a 5-star after 90 rounds. As for the content of the 4-star and 5-star, it is not mentioned in the details. Then let's give it a try. Tom looked at his reassuring number of magic stones and decided to try his luck with dozens of rounds. My turn, draw a card. He scratched his hair into a chicken coop, and then clicked the 10 consecutive button of the novice pool without hesitation. Next, he saw that the interface turned into 10 meteors streaking across the sky, 9 blue and 1 purple. Immediately after the cut scene, Tom began to count his gains. A chocolate frog, a bag of BB Duo flavored beans, a loaf of bread. His eyes gradually became dull. That's it. That's it. What kind of is this? He didn't breathe a sigh of relief until the 4-star item appeared. He was really afraid that his system could only extract ingredients. The 4-star item is a scroll that glows purple. He clicked on the scroll, and the scroll turned into pieces and disappeared. At the same time, there was an extra line of information in his magic column, and a line of notes beside it. Lighting art level 0, 1/100, very good, you have graduated as a wizard. Tom sighed, thinking he could at least be a light bulb. Soon, Tom finished the novice pool in one fell swoop. The second time the 10th company only drew one scroll, it was the iron armor spell. Tom looked straight at Hanako, and felt that he was going to Hogwarts, and went directly to Africa. According to his black face, there might be a tribe there that he could inherit. The novice pool has been drained, so it is natural to go to the permanent pool. The permanent pool can be drawn out of characters. After drawing out, you can increase talent points or gain skills. Tom is very greedy for the potion talent +1 provided by Snape, or the animagus transformation that Professor McGonagall can provide. My turn, draw a card. Tom reached out to the resident pool. The novice pool was so bad just now, the resident pool should have a chance, right? Good luck. The 79th round. Tom's eyes were blank, he felt as if he had been squeezed dry, but at this time the single draw appeared golden. It is the golden color that symbolizes the 5 stars. Tom feels that he is alive again after all. The guarantee is 90 rounds for a gold, and UU reading www.uugonshu.com only draws 79 rounds to withdraw the gold, rounding up. What is the difference between this and a free prostitute? Tom is such an optimistic person. He began to look forward to the characters or skills and alchemy equipment he had drawn. 5-star skills should be much higher end, right? Among the 5-star characters, the one he most wanted to draw was Professor Snape. After all, he could add talent points in potions. Professor Flitwick was also good. Hexology could increase the learning speed of all subjects. Professor McGonagall also. It's not impossible, after all, if you're lucky, you can learn to transform into animagus. If there is a professor that Tom doesn't want to draw, it must be I am the great astrologer Trelawney. Heart. Lung. Step. Stop. Looking at the fancy-dressed woman in front of him, Tom felt his blood pressure soaring. What's the use of divination? No one really thinks that divination is really a subject that ordinary people can learn. The subject of divination is just like the Steinway piano. If you didn't have one in your family when you were born, then you probably won't have it in your lifetime. If it is said that which of all the subjects at Hogwarts requires the most talent, it is undoubtedly divination. In this class, if you don't have talent, you have no talent, and no one can help you. The thin Professor Trelawney turned into a little starlight and merged into Tom's body. At the same time, the divination in Tom's character column changed from 0 to 1, and there were several more level 0 demons. Curse! Tom sighed, tired. Destroy it, hurry up. He pressed the draw button again, but to his surprise, the cutscenes showed golden light again. Another gold. The legendary double-yolked egg. I am the great astrologer Trelawney. Acquired skill, inspiration level 0, 1/100, your intuition is sharper, Tom. You say he is European, he is quite wrong. If you say he is wrong, he still has 10 consecutive yellows. African chiefs, but not completely African chiefs. This is Tom's current state. He embarrassedly stopped drawing cards. He had already drawn nearly 100 rounds, and a third of his savings had been emptied. As a result, to Professor Trelawney, he didn't dare to continue. Today is obviously not a good day to draw cards. So he quit. Until the next day when Professor McGonagall came to him, he didn't touch the prayer again. Professor Dumbledore allows you to study at Hogwarts. Professor McGonagall smiled. Congratulations. She took a leather purse from her pocket and handed it to Tom. This is a Hogwarts fund for students who need grants. It's not much, but you can save a little bit, and the Ministry of Magic and the school board have been reducing school expenses for the past 2 years. Professor McGonagall suddenly interrupted her speech, because she saw that Tom could not wait to open the purse and count the number of galleons in the purse, which made her feel a little tired. Such a greedy and uneducated guy, it was the first time she met. Even if you wait until I leave to count the money? Tom's image in Professor McGonagall's mind inevitably slipped to a greedy and ungrateful look. But the next moment, she was stunned. Because she heard the child say, Professor McGonagall, I owe Hogwarts this money. It's a total of 20 galleons, and I'll find a way to pay it back. Professor McGonagall was silent. After a while, she said, okay. Then she seemed to have suddenly remembered something. She lowered her head and said to Tom gently, I suddenly remembered that the magic book I used during school hadn't been thrown away. If you don't dislike it with some notes I remember. Thank you, Professor. Tom bowed seriously to Professor McGonagall. Hate the notes above? Joke. That's the most valuable part of the book. Don't you see, Harry just got Professor Snape's textbook in 6th grade, just like picking up the protagonist of Goldfinger's novel, and hanging it all the way. Even Hermione couldn't match it. How bad is Professor McGonagall's book at the same level as Professor Snape? Both of them showed happy smiles from their hearts. In addition to the money bag, Professor McGonagall handed him a letter with a train ticket to Hogwarts and the necessary items for the start of the school. Okay, I'm going to take you to Diagon Alley today. Professor McGonagall stretched out a thin hand. Hold my hand tightly. Tom did, and he put his hand tightly on Professor McGonagall's forearm, and then there was a bang, and Tom felt as if everything went dark around him, and there was a pressure in all directions that made it hard for him to breathe, like the whole person was stuffed into a rubber tube. Finally, he squirted out of the tube, some foul air poured into his lungs, and after wiping the uncontrollable tears from his eyes, Tom found himself standing in a dingy, cramped bar. The bar was dark and dirty, a couple of old women were sitting in the corner drinking sherry, and a small man in a top hat was chatting with the bartender who looked like a shriveled walnut with almost stripped hair. His voice suddenly stopped, but when they glanced at the person who came in, they started chatting and drinking again. Professor McGonagall led him through the bar to a small walled patio, where there was nothing but a trash can and some weeds. Professor McGonagall tapped the wall tiles above the trash can. Remember, count 3 up and 2 across. Professor McGonagall took out his wand and tapped the wall 3 times. The wall began to vibrate, and soon a wide arch was formed. The road leads to a winding cobblestone street with no end in sight. Welcome to Diagon Alley. Professor McGonagall and Tom walked into this lively street together, and the archway behind them disappeared little by little. The voice of the system sounded in Tom's mind, accept the mission. Mission, wander the world. Goal, explore the magical world. Stage 1 progress, 1/1 Diagon Alley map unlocked. Mission introduction, there are countless places in the magic world waiting for you to explore, always keep your curiosity strong, traveler. Phase 2 Stage 1 Mission Reward, Occlumency, 5 stars. Tom showed a smile and learned the scroll of occlumency. Of course, it is also level 0 and 0 experience. Occlumency is like antivirus on your computer, and while it doesn't protect you from hackers, without it, you feel like you're running around naked. Next to them is a grocery store that sells copper cauldrons. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. Professor McGonagall walked in resolutely, bought a cauldron for Tom, and then walked towards Mrs. Go buy the uniform first. The owner of the robe shop, Mrs. Morkan, was a chubby witch with a smile. She welcomed Tom in enthusiastically, and then prepared a Hogwarts student suit for him. She also tried to recommend some other additional outfits to Tom, but Tom touched his shriveled purse and refused decisively. Mrs. Morkan could only send him away with a look of regret, still sighing in her heart, this is really a boy with willpower. You must know that few children in the magic world can handle her preferential package. Next, they also went to buy parchment and quill pens, of course ink and other items needed for school. Although Professor McGonagall solved the problem of the Transfiguration textbook for him, this shopping trip cost Tom money. There's still very little galleon left in the bag, and if Tom wants to buy a brand new textbook, he's bound to run out of money. Go, buy a wand first. Freshmen should have a wand that suits them. Professor McGonagall believes that a brand new wand is more meaningful than a brand new book. So they came to the door of a small and broken shop. The gold lettering on the door had peeled off, and it said Ollivander, rod making since 382 BC. But this propaganda, few people would believe that 382 BC was still the era of Wookiee reforms. There was nothing in the shop window, but a wand lay alone on a faded purple cushion. In addition to a bench, there are thousands of long and narrow cardboard boxes, densely stacked, almost as high as the ceiling. Good morning. A soft voice came from Tom's side, and an old man with bright eyes appeared beside them. Professor McGonagall stood up and said to the old man, Good morning, Ollivander, today I brought my students over to buy a wand. Oh, no problem, that's great, Ollivander nodded, then looked at Tom, then pulled out a circle of silver tape measure. He asked Tom's dominant hand, then his arm. Then Ollivander also measured Tom's leg length, height, head circumference, and other dimensions, which made Tom frown. He couldn't help but ask, Sir, why do you need to measure so much data? I'm just here to buy a wand. Because every Ollivander's wand is unique, Ollivander said proudly, that's what our ancestors have done for generations, measuring their physical parameters before offering them wands. And then select the wand according to the parameters. But I'm only 11 years old now. Will these parameters change in the future? Tom was a little puzzled. And after measuring these parameters, shouldn't you just give me a magic wand? Ollivander looked like a teacher who was asked interesting questions by students, with a happy look in his eyes. You are very right, the shape of a person will change, but I just need the data of a child before development. According to the ratio between these data, determine a range, and then select a wand for you within this range. That's it. Tom thoughtfully looked at the thousands of wand boxes in the room, and felt that he really should narrow the scope first. While speaking, Ollivander finished measuring the data. He led Tom to the pile of wands, but before he could pick out a wand, a box trembled, and then the next moment, it flew out of the countless boxes and landed firmly in Tom's hand inside. Oh! A very rare phenomenon. Ollivander showed a surprised expression, which seemed to be rare. He took a closer look at the box, revealing a very complicated expression. It's this wand. Ollivander seemed to fall into memory. After a while, he realized that there were still customers in the store. Sorry, Gaff. This wand is my father's last work. It's been here for decades, and no wizard has ever recognized it. Ollivander looked extremely relieved, looking he was genuinely happy that the wand had an owner. Which core do you think is the most powerful core? Ollivander asked the two of them, but he said to himself before Professor McGonagall answered, every wizard thinks Thunder the tail feather of a bird is the most powerful wand core in the world, but it is not. The horn of the horned water snake is the most powerful wand core. The core of Isolde Thayer, the founder of Ilvermorny, is the horned water snake. The horns of this wand can also sense Parseltongue and send an alarm to the master, which is extremely powerful. Ollivander gently opened the box, and inside lay a very beautiful wand, with a slender body and a faint coiled protrusion on it, which looked like a snake coiled on it, and there was a handle at the end of the wand. Leave an empty hole. This wand has a noble, strange, luxurious feel to it. Acacia horns, acacia wood, 13 inches long, and if you can get the gems on the foreheads of the horned water snakes, you can also set them in the shank, and the gems on their foreheads give the user the power of invisibility and flight. Ability. Tom was a little surprised, this wand actually has a disillusionment charm? Son, pick it up and try it. Ollivander handed the wand to Tom. Tom took the wand and only felt the heat in his fingertips. There was a sense of excitement in his heart, and there was a faint sound of wind and thunder around him. Very good, great. Ollivander looked very happy. He put Tom's wand into a box and wrapped it in craft paper. Come on, it's yours. It chose you. Ollivander assembled the wand and handed it to Tom, who took out 7 galleons and bought the wand, and Ollivander bowed. They were sent out of the store. Reading www.uugonshu.com. Tom glanced at his character column and found that there was one more item in the magic item column, wand, acacia wood, water snake horn, 13 inches, star, 5-star fit, 96%. Although a wand only cost 7 galleons, it still drained Tom's budget. Have you thought about how to repay the money? Professor McGonagall asked curiously. She didn't know how to earn 20 galleons for an 11-year-old boy. The Gringotts I saw earlier should have Muggle currency and galleon exchange business, right? Tom glanced at the imposing tall building in the distance. Yes, but there are limits. Those goblins are very shrewd, some of them even got economics degrees in the Muggle world. Ha! Tom was delighted when he heard this. He remembered a popular joke about economists. One day, Prime Minister Harker wanted to ask 2 cabinet secretaries to discuss economic issues, but his secretary Bernard told him, Sir Humphrey does not understand economics, he is studying classics. Huck, what about Frank? Bernard, he doesn't even know that. He's an economist. Then I should be able to exchange more with gold, right? They are fairies. Tom has long caught the loophole in this rule. Gold is naturally currency, fairies will dislike sterling, but not gold. That's fine, but where do you get the gold? Professor McGonagall felt that the child in front of him became more and more interesting. It's not difficult. Tom happened to know a good place to go, which was very suitable for him. Professor McGonagall nodded, didn't ask any more questions, and disappeared after applying an apparition. In the evening, Tom appeared in London's Soho district, which is located in Westminster, Greater London. It is also the most prosperous, lively, and chaotic place in London at midnight. When night falls, people from the 3 religions and 9 streams will gather here like a tide, flowing into the casinos, nightclubs, and other entertainment venues here. Throughout the region, the roar of locomotives is incessant, and many men and women will drive their motorcycles to stage a disgusting speed and passion in the center of the street with the earth-shattering engine sound. Tom came to the front of a casino where he often came to work as part-time workers. The security guard in black just took a look and recognized him. Stinky boy, are you here to eat again? Uncle John, I'm here to try my luck today. Tom smiled and chatted briefly with the uncle at the door. John, the doorman, shook his head and put him in. At the beginning of the lanterns, the casino was already very lively. There are nearly 100 tables in the hall, and each table is crowded with people, and there are private rooms downstairs, but as Tom is not enough to enter, but it is not a big problem, and his goal is not the gambling in those private rooms. Guessed. He took out the only £30 he had left and exchanged it for chips. Then he walked around the casino at will, looking here and there. The staff in the casino didn't take the kid Tom seriously. He doesn't look dirty either, so why bother? Tom often sneaks in here to do some chores, and take a peek at their buffet. That's right, this casino also operates a buffet. In other words, most casinos have their own casino buffet. They hope that guests can eat directly at the casino when they are hungry, so as not to leave the casino because of hunger. Most casino buffets are delicious, with a lot of choices and good taste. The key is the cheap price. Sometimes Tom only needs to talk to the uncle in the back kitchen to help them deal with kitchen waste and pack the self-service food that can't be eaten home. But today he wasn't here to grab a meal. He walked to a roulette table and stopped and watched for a while. Roulette is a very common casino game. There are usually 37 or 38 numbers. The dealer is responsible for playing the ball on the spinning wheel, and the number on which the ball lands is the winning number. Tom watched for a while and had a vague feeling that the next serve would definitely land on the 9, so he did not hesitate to put a £5 chip in the 9 square. There are many ways to play roulette, but the most simple and crude one is that the betting ball will land on a certain grid. The general odds are 35 to 1. After the chips are thrown, Tom calms down. He quietly watched the small marble bounce and roll in the roulette. Number 7, no. 8 and 09. In the end, the marbles landed on the number 9 grid. Some of the gamblers near the roulette wheel were happy, while others were sad. The dealer swiftly paid the winning bet, and then took away the lost chips. In just an instant, the £5 in Tom's hand became £175. He wandered around the casino aimlessly for a few more times, losing a little, winning a little, and the final asset exceeded £300. At this time, £100 is equivalent to $160, and an ounce of gold is about $370, so Tom can exchange £231 for an ounce, that is, 31 grams of gold. His goal was to take away enough money in exchange for 50 grams of gold in the casino. Gringotts strictly limits the exchange of currency, and this year they introduced a rule that only allows young wizards with Muggle parents to exchange 10 galleons at the exchange rate of 5 to 1 galleon during school. Of course, the exchange of gold for galleons is unlimited. 5 grams of gold is 1 galleon, and only one-way exchange is accepted. The shrewd fairies will not leave any holes for humans to drill. Tom weighed the chips in his bag and walked to another table. There's a casino game on this table. The game of casino situation sounds very high-end, but it is actually a game with the simplest rules. It is a very simple ratio. The dealer and each guest who bet will be dealt a card, and the winner will be determined by comparing the points of the dealer and the player. If the player has more points than the dealer, they will receive a payout equal to the bet amount. Tom stood at the edge of the gaming table, keeping up with a few bets from time to time. By the time he left the gaming table, he had more than £500 on him. He took it as soon as he saw it, and was about to leave the casino. But before he left, he heard an interesting conversation in the toilet of the casino. Yuri Orlov is an immigrant from the Soviet Union. His family business is to open a restaurant, but an accidental opportunity opened the door to the arms business. Today is the day when this cute new arms dealer completed his first business. He made an appointment with a trader to trade in the toilet of a small casino. He deliberately put hairspray on his hair and shaved his beard. Everything is going smooth. He opened the box and handed the brand new Uzi submachine gun inside to the grim-faced young man. "Sir, the new Uzi automatic pistol is small in size, but its firepower is not weakened. It is equipped with 9mm concave bullets, 25 rounds of expanded magazines, the size of the gun handle is adjustable, the silencer is standard equipment, and the recoil is extremely low. At the end, Yuri also made a little joke, even if you shoot me a whole clip of bullets now, people outside won't find out. As a result, something unexpected happened. The buyer loaded the bullet directly and put it on his chest. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Yuri was stunned. However, he responded quickly, and immediately said easily, "Of course, then you won't have the opportunity to do bigger business with me." The young buyer smiled, put the money in Yuri, took the suitcase and left the toilet. Yuri only felt that he had escaped death, and his whole back was covered in cold sweat. He now feels that selling a gun for the first time is the same as having for the first time. You have no idea what you are doing. Although it is exciting, it will end soon. He walked out of the toilet, but saw a little boy walking out of the next cubicle, looking at him with a playful expression. He wanted to leave quickly, but the little boy behind stopped him. "Do you still have a gun like that? I need one that even a kid like me can use." Yuri is a professional businessman, which means that he will not discriminate against customers, even if he is just a little kid in front of him, but since he has pounds and needs, he is his own customer. So the two of them appeared together in a small warehouse. Yuri handed Tom a 90% new Uzi and a box of ammunition. "It's not brand new, but it's cheaper. For £25, you can take the gun and bullets with you. Quite a fair price." Tom took the gun case, handed the money to Yuri, thanked him and was about to leave, but Yuri stopped him. He took out a business card and handed it to Tom. "Who the are you?" Yuri asked, despite being curious that this kind of emotion shouldn't appear on him. Tom didn't answer him immediately, but picked up a withered flower on the ground and handed it to him. "Apprentice." Tom walked away. Yuri was lost in thought as he looked at the bright flower in his hand. Yuri still chased after him. He waved the flowers in his hands excitedly. "Who are you? Is this magic?" Tom just smiled at him. Yuri's breathing became short, and his keen intuition told him that this was the most important and unmissable opportunity in his life. He had the urge to put all the money in his body into Tom, but Tom refused. Now, he only took the £25 he gave Yuri. "I owe you what I owe you." Tom waved his hand and left. Yuri watched the boy's back gradually fade away, sat down on the ground and smoked a cigarette. Standing in front of the open window, Hermione looked at the familiar and intimate garden, feeling the breath of green grass in the garden coming in from the window. She can't believe it to this day. The day before yesterday, a cat turned human before her eyes and told her that she had been accepted into a school of witchcraft and wizardry called Hogwarts. This is more bizarre than a fairy tale. She stood by the window, holding a furry tiger doll in her arms. She looked very calm. If it wasn't for the slight trembling of her arms, everyone would think that this was the eldest lady looking at the scenery. She was a little nervous, because her future was uncertain, because she was about to leave her parents and go to a strange world to study and live. Her life was completely disrupted by this inexplicable school. Originally, according to the arrangement of the Grangers, little Hermione should go to a prestigious medical school when she grows up. After graduation, she will either become a decent doctor or go home to inherit the clinic. Suddenly, a Hogwarts is born. Tell her with facts, students who don't want to be wizards are not good dentists? Hermione pondered while looking at the neatly trimmed raspberries, the neat paths, the bushes with her mother's favorite flowers, and the sights that would have brought her so much fun were only boring to her. Looking at the bushes, a figure suddenly flashed in her mind. I wonder if that person has received an admission letter. Hermione took an unfinished mystery novel, left the bedroom, changed her slippers to sandals at the door of the house, and walked straight out of the garden. She plans to go to her newfound secret base to relax. It is said to be a secret base, but it is actually a pond. Since it is connected to a small river, and the environmental protection has been done well in the past few decades, the water is very clean. The pond is surrounded by green trees, which is a good place to cool off in summer. She turned into a tree-lined path. Below the path was a pond. Around the pond, there were dense willow bushes, and the weeping willows swayed in the wind. Hermione was about to find a shady bench to sit down and read a book, but suddenly she saw a fishing rod rising from the bank of the pond below, so she stopped. She walked near the fishing rod and gently pushed aside the branches of the willow bush with her hands, and a familiar figure appeared in front of her. She recognized the boy named Tom. Tom was sitting on a small wooden pier with his trouser legs rolled up, with a broken jar beside him. He was so absorbed in fishing that he didn't even notice Hermione's approach. "Can you still catch fish here?" Hermione asked curiously. The sudden voice made Tom almost drop the fishing rod in his hand. He glanced angrily at the source of the sound. He saw Hermione standing on the bank with a book in her hand. She was wearing a beige top and light shorts, a pair of white stockings wrapped tightly around her shapely calves, brown sandals on her feet, and her brown hair was loosely tied into a ponytail. Tom's anger subsided quite a bit. At this time, the fish float on the water suddenly fluctuated a few times, making a circle of ripples on the water. Hermione exclaimed from behind Tom, "Bite the hook!" "Fish, hook!" Tom was in a hurry. For some reason, his movements were a little stiff, but in the end he didn't lose the chain at the critical moment. He managed to catch a fish the size of a palm. The fish is yellow-brown, with 3 spines standing on its back and along its cheeks. "What kind of fish is this?" Hermione asked curiously, looking at the fish struggling on the hook. "Yellow spicy ding." Tom carefully took the fish off the hook and prepared to put it into the bucket. "Can I touch it?" Hermione looked very happy, although she didn't know what yellow diced was, but it didn't prevent her from being very excited. She stretched out her hand to take the fish, but underestimated the fish's determination to resist. "Then be careful." "What?" Huang-lating was just a thorn from a salted fish, and it stabbed Hermione's index finger. Tom quickly controlled the fish and threw it into the bucket, and pulled Hermione's hand to check the injury. Fortunately, the stab was not very deep, but Hermione still frowned in pain. It wasn't that Hermione was squeamish, but because Huang-lating's thorns had a kind of venom, which would bring piercing pain after being stabbed, and the wound would swell and itch after a while. Tom looked at the wound with a solemn expression. Hermione was so terrified by his expression that she couldn't help squinting her eyes and asked, "Is it all right?" "It's just a small hole, and there's not even a few drops of blood." "Ah!" Just when she was distracted, Tom squeezed the hole on Hermione's index finger and squeezed out a few drops of dirty blood. "The thorns of Huang-lating are poisonous. You may have suffered it today, but there are 2 ways to detoxify." "What should I do?" Hermione was taken aback by the word poison. "Piss on the wound." "No." Hermione's eyes widened. She felt that Tom was playing a prank. Applying the mucus of the yellow bonefish to the wound can also relieve the pain. Hermione breathed a sigh of relief after the second sentence. Although the sticky mucus looked disgusting, it was better than urine. There is no harm if there is no comparison. Hermione quickly took some mucilage of Huang-lating and smeared it on her fingers. "I don't know if it was a psychological effect. After all, you're living in the water. When you get home, you should use iodine or something to clean up the wound." After treating Hermione's wound, Tom instructed seriously. "Okay." Hermione nodded, and then asked again as if remembering something, "Have you received your acceptance letter from Hogwarts?" "I got it. Have you been to Diagon Alley?" "Not yet. Professor McGonagall gave us the address of Diagon Alley. Dad plans to take me there in 2 days." Hermione smiled when she learned that the boy in front of her was also going to Hogwarts. "I felt a burst of peace of mind. There was a sudden warmth in the cold magical world." Tom looked at her and realized that Professor McGonagall didn't take her to Diagon Alley, and it seems that not every freshman has the honor of being a faculty member. "I'm afraid it's going to be troublesome," he muttered in his heart. The whole family is Muggle, but trying to get to Diagon Alley is a difficult journey. Thinking of this, he raised his head and looked at Hermione. If you don't mind, I can take you to Diagon Alley, I've been there once. Really? That's great. Hermione laughed happily, and her giggles drifted down the river. Look at this trash can, count 3 bricks up, 2 bricks in the horizontal direction, and tap 3 times with the wand, and you can open the passage to Diagon Alley. Tom said to Granger beside him. Mr. and Hermione said. Mr. Granger is Hermione's father, with a kind face, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, and looking very polite. Of course, as a dentist who can open a clinic in London, Mr. Granger is definitely a high-level intellectual. The clinics in the UK are different from those in China. The status of doctors in domestic public hospitals is definitely higher than that of clinics. Domestic doctors are more inclined to be attending tertiary and tertiary hospitals, rather than going to clinics to be ordinary doctors. In the UK, it is different. Those who can open private clinics are all bigwigs, while doctors in public hospitals are inferior to private ones. As a dentist who owns a clinic, Mr. Granger is naturally stubborn, but such an identity is useless in the magical world. Whether you are a doctor or a plumber, in the eyes of wizards, there is no difference, they are all Muggles. Faced with the magic world, Mr. Granger was naturally apprehensive. So he welcomed Tom, who came to the door. After entering Diagon Alley, the Grangers were stunned by the sight in front of them, a shop full of owls, a woman buying dragon livers, a window with broomsticks. They were like entering the Grand View Garden for the first time. Like Grandma Lou, she is curious and in awe of everything. Let's go to Gringotts to exchange money first. Tom gave his suggestion. Visiting the magical world is no different from international travel. First apply for a visa and then exchange money. The process is the same. This analogy softened the tension in the hearts of Granger and his daughter, and they suddenly calmed down. Tom took the son and daughter to the most magnificent building in Diagon Alley, Gringotts. Gringotts is a snow-white building that towers over the surrounding shops like a flock of chickens. Beside its bronze gate stood a goblin in a scarlet gold uniform. That's right, that's a goblin. Tom explained to the Grangers in a low voice. They watched as a huge figure led a skinny boy into Gringotts ahead of them, and they followed, walking along the white stone steps to the Gringotts gate, where the goblin bowed to them. Passing through the bronze door is a silver door with verses engraved on the door. Is that a giant? Hermione asked softly in Tom's ear, and she saw that the giant who got in a little earlier than them was already doing business at the counter. No, it's just a half-blooded giant. The real giant is taller. Tom also muttered. The three walked straight in. Led by the 2 fairies, they came to a tall marble hall. There are about 100 fairies sitting behind a long line of counters and working, some weighing coins, some examining gems, and some writing and drawing. There are countless doors in the hall, and every now and then a few goblins come out of the doors or bring clients in. Tom went to the counter and greeted an idle goblin. Morning, we want to exchange some money. The goblin raised her head and looked at the clothes of the 3, revealing a hint of disappointment that was not easily discernible. I need your identification, sir. The maximum exchange rate for students per semester is 10 galleons. This is my acceptance letter. Tom took out the Hogwarts acceptance letter and put it on the counter, then put out a few bills. Then, he took out 3 gold bars, and when that touch of gold appeared on the counter, the goblin's expression softened visibly. He took Tom's gold bars respectfully and carefully weighed them on a scale. As for the pounds, he just glanced at them and swept them into the drawer. The gold was bought in a black market after Tom and Yuri separated. Since the source of the gold is not visible, it is cheaper than the one sold in the outside bank. 500 pounds can be exchanged for 70 grams of gold. After that, he did the same and got 180 grams of gold. In addition to his 10 galleons quota this year, Tom exchanged 46 galleons directly from Gringotts, which was a lot of money in an instant. Of course, there was 20 galleons in the money. Long was going to return it to Hogwarts, and it had been remitted to Hogwarts' account. Tom had no habit of owing money. Mr. Granger behind him was no exception. He directly exchanged 200 grams of gold and £50 for 50 galleons. The Hogwarts background check was well done. According to Hermione's family background, there was no need for subsidies at all. Some pure-blood families, none of her family has any money. The payment of several hundred grams of gold made the goblin behind the counter laugh from ear to ear. He even handed a business card to Mr. Granger, hoping that the two sides would have the opportunity to cooperate next time. Under his gaze, the three left Gringotts. "Okay, what are we going to buy next?" Tom asked after a few people were standing on the sunny street again. "I want to buy a book." Hermione's eyes were full of little stars. She had been looking forward to magic books for a long time. "Okay, it just so happened that I didn't have all my textbooks." Tom followed Hermione to the Lycan bookstore. Standard spells, elementary, history of magic, theory of magic, 1,000 magical herbs and fungi, magic potions and potions, fantastic beasts and where to find them, 2 galleons each, black magic, a guide to self-defense, 1 galleon, 13 galleons in total. The clerk handed the packaged book to Tom. "You forgot to buy the beginner's guide to transforming." Hermione knew the book list well, and she suddenly realized that Tom forgot to buy a book. "Professor McGonagall gave me her old book." Tom smiled at Hermione. Hearing this news, Hermione immediately became excited. "Really? That's great, it's a professor's book, can I read it with you?" Mr. Granger also generously invited Tom to stay at his house for a period of time during the holidays, so that everyone can go to King's Cross Station together on September 1st. In this regard, Tom of course agreed. Why should there be a villa to live in a bridge hole? He is not stupid. After she came out of the bookstore, Hermione went to Madame Malkin's robe shop to buy uniforms. Then they bought a lot of other odds and ends, like quills, cauldrons, parchment and the like. They met the big man again, and the conversation between him and the black-haired, thin child also reached Hermione's ears. "There are 4 colleges in the school. They say Hufflepuff has a lot of food, but I think I'll be assigned to Hufflepuff. I would rather enter Hufflepuff than Slytherin. Dark wizards are all from Slytherin, and the mysterious man is one of them." "Tom, did you hear what they said? God, if I get into Slytherin, maybe I'll drop out." Hermione heard this conversation, and after the two were far away, they began to discuss the school with interest. "The college." Tom shrugged his shoulders. "It's a bit of a generalization. Each of the 4 academies has its own advantages and disadvantages, but it's a fact that most of the dark wizards are from Slytherin." "The school has 4 colleges? Which 4? How did you know?" Unknown knowledge always arouses the interest of girls. "Hogwarts has 4 houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. The 4 houses correspond to the 4 elements: Gryffindor for fire, Ravenclaw for wind, Hufflepuff for rock, and Slytherin for water. Gryffindor is actually French Gryffindor, which means golden griffin, the griffins. So Ravenclaw is the raven's claw." Hermione was good at making inferences. "Yes, it is a metaphor for their desire for knowledge. Each house has its own style and stereotypes. Gryffindor is the house of the brave, Hufflepuff is food-loving and life-loving, Ravenclaw is thirsty for knowledge, and Slytherin is a group of ambitious the guy." Tom gave Hermione a brief introduction to the 4 academies. "By the way, there are 4 more maxims: we come from the wilderness, we long for strength, we are full of ideals, we are brave, we are righteous, we never give up, we are Gryffindor. We come from the forest, we have great love, we are loyal to nature, we are honest and loyal, we are tough and honest, we are not afraid of hardships and dangers, we are Hufflepuffs. We come from the riverside, we are smart, we think calmly, we study hard, we pursue the truth, we never give up, we are Ravenclaw. We come from the quagmire, we crave power, we are ambitious, we are strong and calm, we are graceful and self-sufficient, we never regret, we are Slytherin. Under the decoration of 4 aphorisms, each school in Hermione's eyes wears a layer of goodwill filter. You know a lot. I asked a lot of questions when I saw Professor McGonagall last time. If you want to know more, you can borrow a book called Hogwarts, A History of the School from the Hogwarts Library. Hermione remembered the name of the book. All kinds of things have been bought, and Hermione also went to Mr. Ollivander to buy a wand, a 10-inch long vinewood wand, the core of which is the heart nerve of a fire dragon. Wands made of vinewood are very rare, and their owners are almost always wizards with lofty pursuits and visions beyond ordinary people. And the wand with the heart of the dragon as the core is extremely powerful and can perform the most gorgeous magic, and this kind of wand is also more capable of learning. Tom gushed about her wand to Hermione, just like a military fan on the forum, familiar with the material properties of various wand cores and wand bodies. Obviously, these words scratched Hermione's itch, and her mood became very happy, her eyes narrowed into a pair of crescent moons. "Where's your wand? What material is it?" Longhorn water snakehorn and acacia wood are rare. The two discussed the knowledge of wand learning for a while, and then they came to a shop with a magic zoo sign. "I want to buy an animal for myself, do you want to go with me?" Tom remembered that he hadn't bought a pet yet when he saw this store. "I'm not going," Hermione said, because she had bought too many books and spent her budget, and had no money to buy a pet like an owl. "The school should provide us with free owls. I need to lay a solid foundation for my homework in the first semester. I may not have the energy to take care of a pet. I feel that homework alone is enough for me to be busy." Mr. Granger cast an admiring look at his daughter. "His daughter is so smart and eager to learn, maybe she can go to medical school to develop after graduating from the magic school." So Tom walked into the magical zoo by himself. There was not much space in it. There were cages hanging everywhere, and the small creatures inside were making various sounds. There was a stench unique to animals in the store. A pair of purple toads with huge eyes were sitting by the door and devoured a dead fly. A large tortoise with gems inlaid on its shell lay motionless near the window, cats of various colors, noisy ravens, silky black mice. The whole store is full of vitality. He approached the counter and said to the witch behind the counter, "Hello, I want to buy a pet, the kind that I can take to Hogwarts." The witch raised her head and glanced at Tom. "Hogwarts allows toads, cats, or an owl, and of course other kinds of pets are not allowed. Is this golden gradient okay?" Tom's eyes were very sharp, and he suddenly saw a little tiger in the corner. At this time, it was sleeping in a ball with its eyes closed. From time to time, there were several the sparks spewed out of its nostrils, so cute. "I'm sorry, but I can't." The witch rejected Tom neatly, "Hogwarts can't keep tigers." "That's a pity. My child, I suggest you buy an owl. It can deliver letters and parcels for you. Toads have been out of fashion in recent years, unless you are very interested in potions. As for cats, because of individual personality differences, sometimes it's troublesome." Tom was very kind, and followed the clerk's sister to see the owl. It turned out that each of these owls is more expensive than the other. The quality of the owls is slightly better, and it will cost dozens of galleons. Like Harry's Hedwig, the whole body is white, and the owls without variegation are even more expensive. Only a local tyrant like Hagrid, who uses a 10-galleon-sized unicorn tail hair as a bandage, can afford it. Yes, Hagrid is actually a big tyrant. There are many treasures in his hut. For example, there is a whole bunch of unicorn tail hair. The market price of this hair is 10 gallons. The venom of his 8-eyed spider can be sold for 100 galleons per pint. Hagrid can be called the invisible richest man at Hogwarts. But for Tom, this price is very unfriendly. However, his eyes stayed on a group of white little creatures. Pigeons. he asked in surprise. That's right, carrier pigeons, they can also deliver letters, but they can't deliver packages. The clerk nodded, 5 galleons each. Tom thought about it for a while, and then he bought a carrier pigeon with a snow-white body and a red mouth. Just when he wanted to leave, he found that there seemed to be some activities going on in the store. Blind box? This was the answer the teller's sister gave him. 5 golden galleons can be drawn once, but of course it is hard to say what is drawn. Tom thought about it, and thought he could take a look. After all, he has the skill of inspiration, and the frequent use these days has made it almost level 1. The current state is inspiration level 0, 99 plus/100, okay, please let me pick a box. Tom auctioned 10 gold galleons on the counter, 5 for pigeons, and 5 for drawing cards. The teller brought a small box to Tom. Tom put his hand in through the opening at the top and took out a ball. The ball was written, Grand Prize. Teller? Tom, Omega Omega. So this is your grand prize? Hermione asked, holding a silver egg in her hand. That's right, this is the egg of the bird snake. It was introduced in the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The eggshell of the bird snake egg is sterling silver. Tom's special prize at the Magic Zoo was an egg of a bird and a snake. This is a rare thing, and it is not often seen in the magic world. Okay, let's go back and talk slowly. The three had already left Diagon Alley and came to the parking lot. Mr. Granger put their purchases in the trunk of the car and drove the two back home. Hermione's house is a small THRESTE Western-style building with a large garden outside. Although it is located in the suburbs, such a house also reflects her family's financial resources. Come on, this is the guest room, what do you think? Mr. Granger led Tom to the guest room of his house, which was simply furnished with a bed, a small sofa, a table and chairs, and a wardrobe. Everything is clean and tidy. It's great. Tom praised sincerely. For the next period of time, Tom stayed at Hermione's house and was warmly welcomed by the Granger family. Mrs. Granger was an intellectual-looking middle-aged woman, from whom Hermione had inherited her brown hair. Mrs. Granger's delicious dishes made Tom's stomach full of delight every time. There is still nearly a month left of school. During this time, Tom and Hermione's main activity is reading books. Hermione quickly absorbed the nourishment from the textbook like a sponge, and her talent was obvious. She quickly mastered a few simple little magic spells. Hermione's room was a mess now. But unlike other people's chaos, the mess in her bedroom is reflected in the books. All kinds of magic books are placed everywhere, and Hermione herself is sitting cross-legged on the bed, leaning on a pillow, holding a book in her hand looking delicious. The book Modern History of Magic I think is worth reading, and I found that Modern History of Magic, The Rise and Fall of Dark Magic, The Important Magical Events of the 20th Century, these books all mention a name, Harry Potter. When it comes to the history of magic in the 20th century, Grindelwald, Dumbledore, Voldemort, and Harry Potter are all characters that cannot be avoided. Tom guessed which characters she wanted to talk about. He glanced at the bright sunshine outside. This is rare in London, and the temperature today is also very suitable, in the early 20s, just right lukewarm. Go out for a walk. He gave a suggestion. I've been sitting at home reading books these past few days. Hermione tilted her head and thought about it, feeling that Tom was right, so she kicked Tom out of the room. After a while, a girl in a sailor suit appeared in front of him. She was wearing a white sailor's uniform with a short navy blue skirt and a pair of black stockings, and Hermione raised the book in her hand. Shall we go for a walk by the lake? Tom has no opinion. They walked through the garden and onto the tree-lined path that led to the lake. So which house do you want to go to? Hermione took the initiative to stir up the topic. I kind of want to go to Gryffindor, where Dumbledore graduated, but I don't think Ravenclaw is too bad. What do you think? I'm a little worried about being sorted into Slytherin or Hufflepuff. Well, being born into a Muggle family and being in Slytherin is a real hassle. Is it a big problem to be born into a Muggle family? Hermione whispered. Tom hesitated. It doesn't make any difference, as long as it's not in Slytherin. They're not so, friendly towards Muggle-born wizards. More than being unfriendly, if a hemp wizard enters Slytherin, what is the difference between him and the Ordos who settled in Germany in the 1930s? That's good. I was a little worried before. Hermione breathed a sigh of relief. So you haven't said which college you want to go to. I personally prefer to go to Ravenclaw, where the learning atmosphere is stronger. Gryffindor classmates are a little too energetic, it may be difficult to study quietly. Ravenclaw also has many great wizards, such as Lady Ravenclaw is the most knowledgeable and wise of the Big Four. Hermione was obviously moved, but after a while she sighed again. It's a pity that I don't know how to divide the hospital. I may not be able to decide my whereabouts. Students can decide which college they want to go to. Students' own wishes account for a large proportion of the college. If you want to go to a college, the school will not stop you. Hermione stopped, looking happy when she heard the news. And I think you're so smart, you're more suitable for Ravenclaw. Oh. Hermione raised her eyebrows and rolled her eyes. It's not impossible to go to Ravenclaw, but what? I still have a hard time deciding between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, so let's see who runs to the lake first. If you run faster than me, I'll go to Ravenclaw. If you run faster than me, I'll go to Ravenclaw. I'm slow, then you go to an academy with me, how about that? Tom glanced at her. Race? Are you serious? Bibi, don't underestimate me. Hermione her hair. They came to the path together, and Hermione stopped in the middle of the road. Now 1, 2, 3. Hermione rushed out, and Tom only saw the heels of her leather shoes tapped lightly on the ground with a crisp sound, and the blue ribbon on her chest followed the wind blows like two blue butterflies. Hermione was much faster than he thought, and he hurried to catch up. He ran all the way, reading www.uugonshu.com tightly chasing the pair of blue butterflies, until the end of the road, only to catch up with Hermione. At this time it was not far from the lake. He accelerated sharply, rushed. He got behind Hermione and grabbed her shoulders tightly. Caught you! Although he was out of breath, he still shouted happily. Yet! Let go, it hurts. Hermione shook her shoulders, trying to break free. The two stood breathlessly at the exit of the path. Hermione, who was running all the way, had used up the last of her strength. She unintentionally leaned on Tom. In memory. The two staggered to the lake together, but Hermione suddenly turned her head. You lose. Tom, what? Look, I went to the lake first. Tom remembered that their bet seemed to be the one who got to the lake first to win, so he couldn't help shaking his head. You actually play word games. Hermione smiled slyly. I've decided, you want to go to the same academy with me. Okay, it's up to you. Tom found a clean, shady place to lie down. You're going to Ravenclaw with me. Tom opened his eyes wide in surprise, but saw Hermione smilingly standing in front of him, leaning over to look at him. That hook. Tom held out his little finger. No problem. Hermione put her pinky finger on it too. The pull hook and pull hook cannot be changed. If he changes, he will go to the glacier. The glacier is cold, the snow field is cold, and the lying tongue is frozen and rotten. What kind of strange agreement is this? The laughter of the two rippled by the lake. Hey, tell me about the magic world again. It is good. September 1st came at once. When Tom woke up that day, there was a dull atmosphere in the house, mainly because the only daughter of the family was going to study in an unfamiliar world, and of course it had something to do with the gloomy sky outside. Hermione woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She was excited and nervous, and she couldn't sleep again after waking up. She sat up, leaning back against the head of the bed and tucked her knees into a blue ball. She saw the tiger stuffed doll on the head of the bed staring at her intently, so she held the doll in her arms, leaving the tiger's head in a state of double peaks and ears, and then carefully combed the plush doll's hair. After combing, rub it again, mess up the hair, and repeat. Tiger cub, I'm going to school in a faraway place, you have to bless me. Hermione put the tip of her nose against the tip of the little tiger's, and prayed in a low voice. The doll's eyes are bright and hollow, as if to say, sorry, I'm just a little doll. Hermione buried her head in the belly of the little tiger. The doll was fragrant and smelled good. Hermione took a deep breath and calmed down. She glanced at the sky outside and felt that it was almost time, so she jumped off the bed and changed into the clothes she had prepared for a long time. She first put on a white shirt with a delicate lady's tie on it, then a grey sweater and a long grey skirt. By the time this is done, it will be dawn. She opened the box again and checked the items against the Hogwarts shopping list, making sure that she had everything she needed before going to the bathroom. She ran into Tom Heaton as she came out of the bathroom, and he seemed ready too. 2 hours later, their heavy suitcases were loaded into the Granger's car, with Mr. Granger driving, Tom in the passenger seat and Hermione and Mrs. Granger sitting side by side in the back. The four of them set off together. Luckily today, there was no traffic jam around the train station, and they arrived at King's Cross at 10:30. Mr. Granger put their luggage on the trolley and helped them push through the station. European railway stations are slightly different from domestic ones. They do not have the step of security check at all, nor the concept of ticket office. A few steps from the outside are the platforms where the train stops. The Grangers stopped between platforms 9 and 10. This is platform 9, and there is platform 10. Where is the 9 on the ticket? Mr. Granger frowned and said, they haven't had time to build it yet. Looking around, there was a big 9-character plastic sign hanging on one platform, and a big 10-character plastic sign hanging on the other platform, and there was nothing in between except the two rails. The joke wasn't funny, and Hermione frowned, but then Tom nudged them and pointed at a wall. They saw the family standing by the wall, then they glanced around furtively, and then they leaned against the wall. They disappeared. I think that's where the entrance is. Tom saw a man dressed as a guard approaching them, and hurriedly said, come on, don't miss the train to Hogwarts. Hearing the words of Hogwarts, the guard stopped and walked in another direction. They pushed the luggage cart toward the wall, and Tom saw a large group of red-haired people coming in not far from them, headed by a short, plump woman with flaming red hair. They were also pushing carts of suitcases with an owl on them. Tom smiled at them, and the fat woman in the lead also smiled back and made a gesture to let them go first. So he and the Hermione father and daughter looked at the wall, which looked solid, took a deep breath, and then trotted all the way. Went through the wall and came to platform 9. A dark red steam locomotive was parked on the platform, and the platform was full of passengers with large and small bags. The sign on the train reads, Hogwarts Express. Coming to this platform, it is as if traveling back 100 years ago. The thick smoke of steam locomotives lingers on the platform. There are buzzing voices everywhere and the chirping of pets brought by little wizards and their families. The first few carriages it was crowded with students, some leaning out of the car windows to talk to their families, and some scoffing in their seats. The moment he stepped into this place, a reminder of the task progress change came in Tom's mind. The progress of the second stage of the worldly leisure task he accepted before has changed from 0/2 to 1/2. Platform 9 of King's Cross is also unlocked. Hermione was saying goodbye to her father, and Mr. Granger hugged her tightly, then kissed her on the forehead, by which time Tom had taken all the luggage into the car. Okay, remember to keep in touch. Mr. Granger let go of his daughter, rubbed his eyes, and watched his daughter and Tom get on the train together. Hermione, this way. Tom found an empty box, he stepped up, opened the door of the box, put the suitcase on the luggage rack, and then took Hermione and him one by one. Carried the luggage. "Thank you for your hard work." Hermione smiled apologetically. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. She took out a fresh keeping box from her bag. "Come on, I'll treat you to strawberries." In Hermione's eyes, there was no such thing as a legitimate idea for boys to move things to girls. Even in England, where gentlemanly manners were popular, there was no reason for 7 or 8 boys to move dormitories for the entire class of 30 or so girls. The two soon sat down face to face in the carriage. Hermione looked out the window and found that Mr. Granger had drowned in the crowd. What caught her eye was the group of red-haired people she had met earlier. One of them was a pair of twins who were helping people move boxes. The stocky lady was wiping the nose of her youngest child. A red-haired youth wearing a black Hogwarts robe and a silver letter P pinned to his chest is talking to them. The whistle sounded, and the 3 teenagers hurriedly climbed onto the train. They leaned out of the window and asked their mother to kiss them goodbye. The little girl their mother was holding began to cry again. The train started. Hermione saw the children's mother beckoning, and their little sister chasing the train forward, crying and running, until the train accelerated and she was left behind, waving to them. The crowd on the platform gradually thinned, and she also saw her father standing alone on the platform. She had never seen such a lonely and powerless father. The corner of Hermione's eyes became hot, and a crystal tear dripped from the corner of her eye. But before it could swipe across his cheek, it was sucked away by a tissue. She saw Tom staring at her with a tissue in his hand. "Hurry up and say hello to your dad." Hermione also came to her senses, opened the window, leaned out, and waved to Mr. Granger, who saw her at once, and waved goodbye to her, until the train turned the corner and they couldn't see each other.